Ho! Let's have a big hand for all of the people here at Malt Shop Memories Cruise. Wow, wow. Oh, look at this. The Cordettes are here. Is Arthur Godfrey with you? No. Well, anyway, it is so good to see all you guys. We've done this a couple of times. But are you having fun? That's important. Are you having really fun? You having fun? All right. You know, on this part of the cruise, we've got so many wonderful artists. As you know, Gary Puckett, the Times are over here. A couple other people are here. But also with me on the stage is Gary Puckett. So a big hand for my man, Gary Puckett. That's amazing.
Thank you, sir.
You're Lori's mom. And that's it. You're on all the cruises. Your mother-in-law and your father-in-law.
They are the cruisingest couple in all of the world.
And they got the workingest guy as a son-in-law in all of the world. Gary Puckett.
You want to sit there? Sit?
What? That's it.
Okay.
As a matter of fact,
Good idea.
Gary, you and I, the last time we were together with the beautiful Mary Wilson.
Yes, indeed.
Who is now watching us up in heaven with so many other great stars that are a part of our lives. But they did an infomercial together. It was you and it was Mary Wilson. And after the infomercial, we went to an Italian restaurant. Remember that?
I do. Very well, yes.
We had some macaroni. Okay? People call it pasta. We call it macaroni. So it's good to see.
Not Macarena.
No. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this young man. Born in Minnesota, moves to San Diego, Washington State, not too far from a town called Union Gap in Washington.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, is that how you came up with the name Gary Puckett and the Union Gap, because you're at Union Gap in Washington State?
You want me to tell you the whole story?
Yeah.
Are you guys really interested?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I grew up in the Yakima Valley. Anybody here from Washington State? I see some Washington Staters out there. That's great. So you know Yakima Valley. It was a great place to grow up. I was born in Hibbing, Minnesota. And my dad was in World War II. So he actually he was missing in action. And my mother thought that he was never coming home. And for 5 months, he was in German prison camps. So eventually, it was toward the end of the war, and he was able to escape and get back to friendly forces. So she got another phone call that said, "Hey, guess what?" And he came home, and they started their life together. I had already been born, of course. I was 2 years old, and he moved the family to Watertown, South Dakota. Kind of interesting in a way. I had no idea. I was 2.5, 3 years old. And by the time I was 5 to 6, we lived in the Yakima Valley. Now, that was a perfect place to grow up because I was a typical boy. And boys like to chase garter snakes and, go fishing and do all the things that boys do. So it was just the place where I called home rivers and lakes and fishing and hunting. My dad was a sportsman, so it was that kind of a great place to grow. It was clean and beautiful. In fact, we always talk about...
Basically, Indian country, Nez Perce Indian up there, right? The Nez Perce?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think others as well, but... Yeah. We didn't get scalped or anything.
No, well, Chief Joseph almost made it to Canada, but they stopped him. But you had other groups before the Union Gap.
Well, not many. I started in high school. I was 15. I had found a guitar in my grandmother's attic, and it was a Spanish style. It was an acoustic. It had 5 strings instead of 6. It was missing one. Yeah. Well, at any rate, I was attracted to the guitar. I had been set at the piano by my parents when I was a kid.
Right.
They said, "You're going to learn to play this thing." And I really was more of a kid that wanted to be outside and running around and all that. But then along came rock and roll and Jerry Lee Lewis and Little Richard and the Coasters and the Plouters and others that really kind of sparked.
This is the 50s now. You're talking about in the 50s.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was born in 1942. That makes me a really old guy.
Not as old as me.
Are you older than me?
I'm much older than you.
Well,
I was born in 1940. So that makes me 81 years of age, you see.
Wow. He's doing great, huh? Doing great. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, the 50s, rock and roll, all that kind of stuff. And the guitar attracted me because, there were guitarists back then that were kind of cool. Eddie Cochran, for instance,
Yeah.
And I thought, I think I want to do this. So, but I was still in high school, and I put together a little band that we didn't have a bass player. We had a guitar player and a drummer and a piano player, and I sang. And we played at the sock hops and things of that nature, which was fun, great fun, And then my folks wanted me to go into higher education. I was a good student to a certain point. Anything that I was really interested in, I excelled at.
Right.
But if I didn't like it, I just almost flunked. Yeah. But I would somehow pull through enough that it. So, at any rate, I went to City College for a couple of years in San Diego, California. And I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? We were talking about,
the groups,
about Union Gap and Yakima Valley.
Right.
Okay. I'm 15 years old. I'm in a group. We were called the Redcoats. We wore red coats, and we played the music of our era and all that kind of stuff. And then I went on, to school and all that sort of stuff. But when it came time for me to finally put together a group that I thought could be successful in the world, not just in the nightclubs in San Diego, I was thinking, how do we beat the competitiveness of the business? Because it's extremely competitive. Everybody wants to be king of the hill. Everybody wants to make a record. Everybody wants to have that record company that has the wherewithal to make a record.
Make it happen, yeah.
Make it successful. Yeah. So I was thinking, and I had found the fellas that were now in the group, and I just called us Gary and the Remarkables, which is unremarkable. But it was a working title, It was just, we got to have a name. We just can't. So, at any rate, I found a little agent in Los Angeles, and he was an old trombone player from the big band era. And he said, "Yeah, I got a young guy in here that'll come down and check you guys out in San Diego." So he sent a guy down. I can even remember his name, Bob Zevers. And Bob came down to this funky old club that we worked in National City that was owned by a guy that just catered to the sailors and all the service men. So it was a really decrepit old club, and it had a Chinese restaurant in the back, and it was dark, and it was, it just smelled of cigarettes and alcohol and all that kind of stuff.
They could have made a movie on this.
Yeah, I tell you, it really was something. Anyway, we had to, make a living. So we were working in this club, and I got this guy to come down, and he listened to us on an afternoon. And I remember his comment. He says, "You guys aren't too good, but I'll see if I can get you a job." Well, thank you, I said. So he did. He got us a job in Van Nuys in a little club called Cappy's, and Cappy's was about as wide as this stage, less. It was half as wide as the stage, and it had a fish tank that went from the back to the very front, and in that fish tank was an arowana fish. Have you ever seen an arowana fish? It looks like a moray eel, but it's called arowana fish.
You went from a Chinese restaurant into a whole aquarium.
An aquarium, basically. And we would play. There would be 4 people in the club, and the fish would go back and forth like this, and we were just hypnotized by this dang fish with the 3 people that were sitting at the bar. So Finally, after 3 or 4 days, we were fired because the guy really wanted a trio, not a 5-piece band. He was paying too much money, you know, and nobody was coming into the bar. And so we went from there up to Seattle, and I kept thinking, how am I going to, what are we going to wear? How are we going to appear? We have to have great songs, and we got to make a hit record, but we got to look good too. We got to look different. We can't. Do you guys remember what everybody was wearing in those days? On the stage, on the street. You remember the guys wearing? We all wore platform shoes. You remember that? Platform shoes, hip huggers, bell bottoms.
The psychedelic era.
Psychedelic
That was
tie
the
dyes.
psychedelic era, yeah.
Fringes, leathers, suedes.
California was noted for all of that. On the East Coast, it was the hippies, but it was the psychedelic movement out there in California, especially in San Francisco, where underground radio really began, you know. I mean, FM was like nothing on the East Coast. It really began with Bill Graham and guys out there in San Francisco, you know. But
That's right. We went to Haight-Ashbury just to see what was going on. You know.
do you remember what was going on?
I was not stoned. I was looking to see who was, you know, and it was amazing. It was, at any rate, while we were working in Seattle in another club, I think it was respectable. I thought to myself, now I always had an interest in the Civil War history of the U.S., and I've always thought it was just fascinating because about 20 years prior to the Civil War, photography became something, and it was really almost perfected in its, what is the word I want, to the point that it was.
It looked as if it was yesterday. It was right there.
It was fantastic. You can go online and find photos of the Civil War now that are just phenomenal. And so I thought, you know, I really like that history, and I think that might be a great outfit. We could all wear, I was born in the North, I liked blue. You know, and I wasn't, you know, I mean, as a kid in the 60s, or a young adult in the 60s, I was probably as much of a rebel as anybody, you know, but that wasn't I wanted to wear something that, so I said, we're going to wear the Union soldier outfit, guys, and we're going to have ranks, privates, corporals, sergeants. I'm going to be the general. I could only find, it was kind of an immediate promotion, you know.
Good thing you weren't Armstrong Custer.
Yeah, so I could only, in all my searching, I could only find second lieutenant bars. So I was really a second lieutenant on my, epaulette up here. However, the band thought it was the dumbest and stupidest thing they had ever heard. Guys, we're going to wear Union soldier outfits and call ourselves the Union Gap. They fell about for 2 days. Laughing, kidding me, just going on and on and on. So from Seattle, we went to Portland, and we went to work in a nightclub there that this guy, Bob Zevers, had booked us in. It was a topless club.
An aquarium, a Chinese restaurant, to a topless club. Interesting career, Gary.
So, fortunately for us, Long Branch meant it was a long club, and the topless part was at that end, and the dancing part was at this end. So we didn't have to deal too much with all the nakedness, you know. So we got through that one okay, and then we went to Vallejo, California, and we're playing our first set and rocking, and we were a good band by that point because we'd been working together for a while now, and we played the music of the day, lots of Beatles, Rolling Stones. Just we were good, and we were having fun. Very first set, the second, we took our break, came back, and the second set, two girls come out on either side of the stage, on the go-go stage, and whip off their shirts. I know that you have never tried to sing a song to people straight out there when two half-naked women, and you're 24 years old. Do you know what I mean? So it was really like, gotta be blinders. What were the words to that song? You know, okay. Anyway, from there, I said, guys, we're going to go to Los Angeles. We're going to go to a place called Western Costume because they make these costumes. That's where all the movie producers go. If you're going to make a movie, you know, you go there and you get your Indian costumes, you get your war costumes, you get whatever. And we went there, and I said, I'd like to buy these outfits for my band. And they said, okay. And it was some incredible amount of money to us then. Each outfit was probably $400 or $500. And that meant between us, we were going to be paying $2,500. That was incredible in those days. So I said, that's impossible. Can we rent one? They said, yes, you can rent one. So I got one that fit me. And I took the boys and I went to Tijuana, Mexico. Living in San Diego, it was pretty easy to do. Went south of the border, and it was pretty easy to do in those days. It was, you know, kind of middle 60s. And it wasn't like it is now. Anyway, found a little tailor. Couldn't speak any English. I couldn't speak any Spanish. I just showed him the outfit, and he went. He measured everybody up, and he said, Tuesday, you know. So I said, okay, we'll come back. So I guess it was a couple of weeks, and he made these outfits. They were fantastic. They were really, really good. He did a great job. And Tijuana was known for tailoring and upholstery, those two things, you know. So anyway, did a great job, and I took the guys and went back to San Diego, and we're going back to work in a club that we had worked in before. You remember the name? Quad Room. It doesn't exist anymore. It was in a bowling alley.
That's true story.
Bowling alley, and you had to walk into the bowling alley to get into the club. Why they did that, I'll never know. But that's what you had to do. So all the guys said, we are not going into the bowling alley in these outfits. In fact, our drummer at the time, he had these pompadour hairdos.
Was that
and all
Paul?
This. What's that? What?
Was that Paul, your drummer at that time?
No, not Paul. He was the guy that became the drummer. This guy's name was Pete Carrillo. And Peter left us many years back, at any rate. He wouldn't wear the hats and stuff like that. We were always in arguments and things. However, the band said, I'm not going in the bowling alley in these outfits. And I said, yes, you are. Come over to my house. We'll all go together. So we drove to the club together. We get out of the car, and everybody's, you know, kind of squinching down like, you know, you don't recognize me kind of thing. Well, we walked in the door, 52 lanes, and they just stopped. One at a time, you know, and all the guys are kind of walking like this, you know. So we got into the club, and we started working, and it was, at first we got all kinds of flack, like, hey, it's Paul Revere and the Raiders again. You know, and I'd go, you got your history wrong, but okay, cool. But then people started liking it. They started going, wow, that's really cool on the stage. You guys, you're together. You look together. You look like you belong together. And we were a good band by this point. And it was a dance club, and everybody came in to dance and to drink and all the stuff that you do when you're a young adult, you know.
But how do you hook up with Columbia Records?
Well, here's how it happened. I put together a portfolio. I took the guys out to a little ghost town east of San Diego, a little bit like an area in Knott's Berry Farm.
Right.
Do you remember that? Remember Knott's Berry Farm?
Sure.
And they would have these faux gunfights, you know, and they'd shoot, and the guy had to fall off the roof, and there was all this kind of neat stuff, you know. They had kind of the same thing on a much smaller scale, but they had a saloon and a jail, and they had a cemetery. And so we took all kinds of pictures with the saloon girls and with the sheriff and the deputies, and we went and jumped over the tombstones and all that stuff.
Took a long time for you to get where you had to go, man.
It took 8 years, and it was an overnight success.
But, Gary, for the people here, Columbia Records was a major record company, going back with Johnny Mathis, going back with Mitch Miller, even going back to the early days with Frank Sinatra and all of that. Most of our rock and roll artists were always on little labels. You hooked up with a major, major label,
I'll tell you.
which is astonishing.
I'll tell you how it happened. I had put together this portfolio, had a demo, me singing. It was the last band I was in before the Union Gap, but it was a demo. It showed us off a little bit. Took all the pictures, put them in a portfolio, along with lyrics that I had written in that demo, and made it look professional in some way. And took it to all the record companies in Los Angeles, everyone we could find. We just beat the pavement for, I don't know, days and days at a time, and then we'd have to go back, go to work at night.
Right.
So I was getting exhausted. We even went to, do you remember, what was his name? The oldies guy in the...
Art LeBeau.
Art LeBeau.
Yeah, right. Well, he was big in L.A., right.
His office was a P.O. box. When I discovered that, I went, I'm out of here. I'm going home. I want to sleep. I want to eat, So anyway, on the way out of town, I see CBS on the side of the building, and I go, wait a minute, guys. Now we're on Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
So I said, stop the car. I know you're not going to be able to sit here. Just, if a cop comes, go around, and go around until I come back. I'll probably only be 2 minutes. So I go inside, and there's a lady in there sitting, and she did that. It was the old phone system that Lily Tomlin did, one ringy dingy. And she's pulling and pushing and saying yes, and so I walked up to her, and I was, at this point, discouraged enough to say, ma'am, you don't want to hear another new group, do you? She said, wait a minute. Plug, unplug, plug, plug. Says something. She said, see that hallway over there? Go to that hallway, turn right, go to the end, turn right, and go to the second door on your right. I said, okay. So I went to the front door, and I went to the guys. Wait, hold on. Around the block, please. So I go back to where I was directed to go, and I look in the door, and there's a guy by the name of Jerry Fuller who is pounding a nail in the wall.
Let me tell you, Jerry Fuller, one of the greatest songwriters, and he'll tell you about the hits, and very much responsible. But he didn't write Woman, Woman, though. No, Glazer wrote Woman, Woman.
He did not write Woman, Woman. He wrote Young Girl, Lady Willpower, and Over You. And then he and I did a lot of songwriting.
Oh, gigantic hits. And it's interesting. Your songs all were top 10, but in England, always number one. Always number one.
Young Girl became number one twice in England somehow. And that's the song that I'm identified with.
And you performed for the Prince, for Prince Charles.
Prince Charles and Princess Anne, yeah. That's a story for another time. We got to finish with Jerry, because
so many thoughts come back into my mind when I sit with you in your career, because your career is amazing at
thank
that
you.
point. It really is, ladies and gentlemen.
Not nearly as amazing as yours.
No.
Yeah. You guys. Anyway, I said, excuse me. And he turned around, he looks, and he says, hey, come on in. So I walked in, and I said, what are you doing? He says, I'm hanging up a gold record award. I said, really? I said, I've never seen one of those before, up close. Can I take a look? He said, sure. And he hangs it on the wall, and I walk over, and I look at it. It says, Traveling Man. I'm a traveling man, made a lot of stops. Okay, so I said, wow. I was a huge Ricky Nelson fan. He says, I actually wrote that song for Sam Cooke. But Sam didn't like it, and he was into another thing. Ricky's people said they loved it, showed it to Ricky. He loved it. It sold 4 million copies. So I don't know if Sam knew that. But at any rate, Jerry had some local success in Texas, where he was from, as well as producing a group called the Knickerbockers, who I thought they were the Beatles. They had a song called Lies. Just a great, great record, absolutely phenomenal. Anyway, when I saw the gold record and heard 4 million copies, I said, would you please look at my portfolio? And he says, sure, come on. And he sat down at his desk, and I sat down, and we talked, and he looked at it, and he listened for a minute, and he said, where can I see this group? And I said, we're working in a club in San Diego. It's called the Quad Room, and it's in the Claremont Bowl. He says, in a bowling alley? And I said, yeah. So he says, I'll be down on Saturday. I said, okay, great. So it was Tuesday, I think, when I found him, and we had days to go. So on Friday night, I'm kind of cruising. I'm not singing everything. I'm letting the guys, take some of the vocal duties. And midnight, we take our, I guess it would have been the third break. So put my guitar down. I step to the edge of the stage, and here's a guy standing there looking up at me. And I looked down. I went, wait a minute. You're supposed to be here tomorrow night. And he said, I just wanted to catch you off guard. I said, you know what? You did. So he said, well, I'll tell you, let's just go make a record. What do you say? That was my, I'm going, well. So we went out in the booth, and we sat there in the booth while everybody bowled, and lots of noise and all that stuff. And he said, I've got a song in my hand. He said, Glenn Campbell loves it, but I'm betting him I can get in the studio first. So he said, don't pay attention really to the arrangement, we're going to change it a little bit. Whoa, whoa, woman, that thing, it was, woman, have you got cheating on your mind, So, pardon me, I've still got morning voice. Anyway, so he said, I'll be back in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it is, with all the contracts, and we'll set it up. So he came back.
67?
67, yes.
Yeah.
That was June of 67,
right.
And he came back probably, I guess it was in July. Maybe it was May. I don't know. I can't remember exact timeline, but he brought the publishing papers, the recording papers, all that kind of stuff. And he said, all right, I'm setting it up. So August 17th, we went in the studio, and you guys liked it. You paid your 49 cents or whatever it was. And you made it a huge hit. So then it was followed with others.
When I play that, yeah. In the early days when I played that song, and Young Girl, Why Am I Losing Sleep Over You, it really, you nailed it for what a kid was feeling about. Because I've always said the music speaks when we can't speak. The lyric of the music speaks for the experience.
Well, thank you for that.
And no, but really, you were unique with your sound. And for some reason, in my mind, I thought of Johnny Mathis. Did anybody ever tell you guys that there was a certain sound, like a Johnny Mathis sound on those records?
Well, at times I got some sort of comparisons. I never saw the true comparison as such, but I've always loved Johnny's voice, as well as others, Tom Jones, people like that. And there were, David Clayton Thomas and B.J. Thomas.
Yeah.
I had those comparisons, and they all became friends of mine and acquaintances and all that kind of stuff. But yes, we did get those comparisons.
Now, there was a point, though, then, after all of the hits that Jerry Fuller put together with you guys, that you guys split, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the sad part of it all. I thought I knew more than Jerry did, and that was my big mistake. Plus, there was also the changing of the era. The era was becoming something else. The Vietnam War was becoming a real, what is the word on a drag, on the American socio-political scene and all that kind of stuff. Plus, leaving the 60s, going into the 70s, we now had the glitter rock movement with people like David Bowie, who I loved, as a matter of fact, and Bang a Gong with T-Rex and things of that nature. So disco era was coming in, and I made the mistake of saying to Jack Gold, who was the A&R president on the West Coast, when he said, here's new contracts, just sign them, we know how to make you rich and famous. And I wanted to be a songwriter, and I wanted to have more input in
your material and what you wanted to do.
Right. So that became the problem. Don't Give In to Him was it. At first I didn't like the song. Now I love it because of its sonic values, the chordal structure, etc. But it goes along with what you were saying about the lyric, all those things. But that was the song that ultimately brought us to split, because I went, I think Jerry called this one wrong. and I should not have done that.
What wasn't that recorded?
Don't Give In to Him?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it became a hit.
Right.
But it wasn't as big as the others. The
I
others,
got you.
collectively, those 4 records sold
Right.
16 million
Right,
copies.
right,
And
right.
Don't Give In to Him was a very moderate seller.
I remember.
Yeah. So that gave me the reason to think, maybe I do know something about this. I was wrong, but,
Yeah.
that's all I'm saying.
You know, it's interesting as an artist, when you take command of your career, sometimes we make a wrong decision, okay?
All the time
But,
we make it.
but when you guys recorded This Girl Is a Woman Now, which I think the lyrics that you guys, I'm telling you, if you listen to every one of the songs, amazing. I mean, really, Gary, the recordings that you guys had, This Girl Is a Woman Now. If you listen to the lyrics, she's growing up and, and
I call it the coming of age song.
yeah, I mean, it's so now from 67 to around 69, hits. What happens after this?
Well, that was what I was saying. In breaking up with Jerry, we were able to have one more big hit with This Girl and a couple of other minor hits. Keep the Customer Satisfied, and something else, I Just Don't Know What to Do With Myself, which was a song that was covered by many from Dion.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, somebody said something. No, not
said-
that. No, I don't think he wrote that.
No.
Yeah, no, I think that was a Bacharach and David song.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, at any rate, that was the changing. When the ladies will relate to this. When you change the ingredients of the cake, what's happened?
Yeah.
It doesn't taste the same.
It's no more
it
red
doesn't
velvet cake.
rise to the. So I changed, the ingredients to the
Right.
cake,
Yeah,
and
right.
it started to fall. So.
You hit upon something. We always talk about. We were talking about this the other day. Everybody talks about Burt Bacharach, wonderful arranger, okay, but really it is the lyricist,
Hal David.
that definitely is the storyteller. All right, there's some great Lieber and Stoller, Doc Pomus, more human, but it was always the lyricist. Hal David never really got the claim that Burt has gotten. And Burt will say to you, if it wasn't for Hal David with those lyrics, And here's a trivia question. Hal David, the song Gone with the Wind? My Own True Story? His older brother wrote the lyric for that. My Own True Love. So did you know that? Yep. My man. My man. Funny, we remember the Monkees. Then the last time you and I were together, before all this, was with the Monkees. How'd that happen? Really.
You tell me how it happened.
I did the Monkees, okay, and the guy, David Fishoff, who was the agent.
You're talking back in '86 now.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. We had, in 1984, Fishoff. Actually, I'm probably stepping out of line here in a way, but the Happy Together tour was originally my idea.
Really?
I was doing a concert at the Meadowlands.
Okay.
And a fellow by the name of Howie Silverman came to me and said, my boss would like to talk to you. And I said, okay, who's your boss? He said, David Fishoff. We go in the city, we meet. He said, I'm working with the Turtles and the association. And I'd like to work with you too. And I said, sounds good. All right, let's continue the discussion. So at some point I said to him, you know what, you should put all 3 of us out on tour, because I think that would be really cool. We're vocal groups, balladeer, rock. We'd all bring our own fans, to the concert. And he said, yes, we're going to do this. And then he added Spanky and Our Gang. Actually, my band backed up Spanky and became Our Gang. And then the Unigap and played, and then the association, and then the Turtles. And it was wildly successful. 8 months that year, we traveled and worked all over the country. The next year, '85, he did another one. And I think it was Mark Lindsay and I'm forgetting now. So at 86, the new Happy Together tour became the Monkees' 20-year reunion, because MTV had been playing the Monkees reruns 24 hours a day for 2 years, and everybody was a brand new Monkees fan. All the ladies that were 15-year-olds when the Monkees were first famous now had 15-year-old daughters who now love the Monkees. You know, so I was invited on that tour, and they put together a great band to back us all, except for the Herman's Hermits, me, the Grassroots, and of course the Monkees. And we worked in stadiums all over the country, and it was the biggest tour of that year.
If you remember, it was Mickey did it, okay? Mike Nesmith didn't want to do it.
No, he did not.
Yeah. So what happened, because I did the Monkees, I did a episode based on Some Like It Hot. It was called Some Like It Lukewarm. Okay. And what happened is Donnie Kirshner called me and said, I was doing the TV show in LA. He said, they're going to send you a script. They want you to do this. Dean Martin got wind that I was going to do this, and his daughter, Dina Martin, he called me and said, hey, kid, you know this guy, beep, boop, beep. He said, you think you can get my daughter in it? So I said to Kirshner, listen, let whoever the casting guy is talk to Dean Martin about the daughter. So it was Dean Martin's daughter, Dina, myself, Some Like It Lukewarm. Because the other guy didn't show up for the tour, they called me, and I was Peter Tork or Mike Nesmith, if you remember. So I was the fourth monkey when he came into Philadelphia and Atlantic City.
Yeah, cool.
Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Oh my! There's so many wonderful stories about show business that if you go back and you look at your career, you know, I mean, from the Chinese restaurant to the bowling alley to the aquarium to the hit records to where you are now, the Monkees' Happy Together tour. Did you ever want to do anything else other than being a musician?
A ski bum, maybe? I really don't know. Music was so paramount to me that...
well, you were a kid. You
Yeah.
started out at, what, 14, 15 years old, you say?
Mm-hmm.
You were a kid. You knew nothing else other than that, you know?
Well, it was just what I wanted to do, though I tried to go off to higher education and get into medicine. I was interested in the psychology, psychiatry, that kind of stuff, maybe criminal, maybe child, whatever, you know. So, but it never happened. I ended up going to work in a auto parts store called Foreign Auto Supply to make a living while I'm working at night in nightclubs, you know. And I became the boss in the store with 10 employees, which was, you know, in itself kind of a neat accomplishment. We had a machine shop, and we would grind valves, and I would go to L.A. once a week to British Auto Parts and Lucas Electrical. And
Do you think that the music that you created, the love songs, an era of romanticism, you think that will ever come back for young people today?
Oh, yeah. Things are cyclical. I believe it will. I mean, I think that a lot of the music today is, I don't know, I don't even understand it, you know. I mean, literally.
I think the audience agrees with you. I mean, you know, we lived at the greatest time, as I said. But music was our friend, and disc jockeys back then who played the music, you knew who they were, you called up for request, and you heard the song over and over again. The problem is today there's no more radio. The big thing with radio today, especially, is talk radio, because people identify with that. Or sports radio, they identify with that. Certainly there is Sirius and there's XM, but that's like pushing a button, you know?
Well, they're still pretty good with bringing the music that you want to hear. I listen to 50s on 5,
Correct.
60s on 6, and I just did my second guest spot for 60s Gold, they're going to call it. It's going to be on Channel 73, so you guys might pay attention if you have Sirius, and I'll be on sometime in the next few weeks, I guess. So
They know all about it.
you guys know more than I do. I was looking for an email from the Sirius guy to tell me what was going on. Nothing, you know, nothing. Oh, so, yeah, there you go. Thank you. You can teach an old dog new tricks, I guess. All right.
Anyone have any questions? Can we take some questions from the audience, Gar?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, question. Lyrics. You like the who? Current music. He says he likes the current music, but he can't understand the lyric.
Yeah.
Well, what are they talking about? There's nothing really good to talk about. I mean,
No, I don't know how to answer that question except that I probably. Well, I try to write relational things, man, woman kind of lyrics. But recently wrote a song that you'll find it on YouTube by a fellow by the name of Ben Allen, and it's called "We Are Americans." And it's a. Have you seen it? Go check it out. I think you'd like it. It's a patriotic song, and if you're patriotic, I think it'll grab you.
We need more of that today in America. I say it on stage, this is the greatest country ever.
Absolutely.
Ever, America. And we need songs like that, Gary. I think it's important. Yes?
Gary, I live on Long Island in New York. You performed at the Westbury Music Fair 25 years ago, maybe more. You did a song called My Son.
Yeah.
What was the song, Gary?
My Son. It's
Son.
on one of the albums. I forget. Well, so what did you say? What?
He asked who did the arrangement?
Oh, as a single, that's really kind of up to the producers and the record companies. I can go to them and say, "Hey, release this," and they'll go, "Yeah, kid." So I don't know why they never released it as a single. I always thought, in fact, I love the song so much that we did it twice in the studio, and the very first one is the one you'd be familiar with, and that's my favorite one. The other one got a little too big orchestral. You know what I'm trying to say.
Gary, how can people hear this? How can they hear this song?
Which one, My Son?
My Son, yeah.
Well, that's on, which album is it on? Do you remember?
He probably has the album.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
There you go.
That's the. Oh, yeah. Well, they can find it on there, and it's available on Amazon. Yeah, cool. You know what? We would we would have had to play it. We haven't played it for a while, so I wouldn't want. Maybe I'll just surprise the guys and say, "Play this song, fellas, and see what happens." I don't know. Did you hear me back there, Wood? Yeah.
All right, we have one more question, then we've got to wrap it up. Yes, sir. What became of the rest of the group? I know Paul, who was your original drummer, wind up with Where the Action Is, right?
He was on Where the Action Is, yeah.
Right, yeah.
But Paul has lived in San Diego all these years, and his wife became a big shot in the hotel industry, so that was really good. And he's just played locally in San Diego because he's a great drummer and all that. We haven't been in touch for a long, long time. Kerry Chater, who was one of the songwriters in the group, played bass. He lives in Nashville with his wife, Lynn, and he has been very successful as a songwriter, wrote for everybody from Alabama to, just you name them, everybody. His very first hit was I O U by Lee Greenwood, and he went on to write for many, many people.
Tell me about, not to interrupt, but tell me about the guys today. You've got them with, I think they're
Where are
backstage,
they?
right?
Yeah, come on.
Where
are the
are
guys
the
here?
present guys? Come on out. Where'd you go?
Are they still here?
Where they at?
Did they leave? Hey, you guys.
Hey! Why don't you introduce them, Gary?
So this is Mike Candido. Mike lives out in the Las Vegas area, and they moved out to a great, great area that everybody should live in. We call it Kerplunk. It's actually called Pahrump. It's a great wine country and all. And anyway, he's the drummer. And over here we have Woody Lingle. He lives in Orangeburg, South Carolina. He's a very accomplished guy, like they all are. He's our band leader and arranger and funny guy and all that. Jamie Hillbolt is our keyboard guy, lives in Austin.
Wow. Yeah.
Tell us who you've worked with. Tell us a little bit about what your experiences back when and leading all up to here. Who'd you work with?
Oh boy. Well, when I was 18 years old, I was with. I got the gig in Wilson Pickett's band.
Yeah.
Sam and Dave.
Yeah.
Roberta Flack, Spinners, the OJs, a lot of jazz artists. Stanley Turrentine, George Benson, Grover Washington, and that's enough of that.
He's done a lot. What was your name? Oh. Who have I worked with? I've worked with this gentleman over here. He's my favorite. I've been with him for a long time, yeah, but I was a Nashville guy for about 17 years, so I did a lot of country acts.
Yeah.
Amy Lou Harris, Steve Warner, Ricky Van Shelton, Ty Herndon.
Wow.
Just a bunch of names that, sometimes a lot of recording there too. And, but yeah, it's a testament to him. Most of those road gigs for me were like 2.5 years to maybe 4 years. I've been with him for over 17 years. So
Wow.
that's because he's a good guy. He's a great hang.
Yeah.
And that money you owe me? Oh no.
I am the new guy. I've been with them 11 years, and new guy. Yeah, and they never let me forget that. From Austin, Texas, I was with Archie Bell and the Drells, and also
Can't stop dancing.
Yeah, and which yes, please don't sing it. And
Gonna be a showdown.
I did a short tour with the Funk Brothers, and been lucky to Gary has been wonderful to us, and only fired me a few times.
Well, listen, Gary, let me tell you, God bless you, man.
He does greatly.
Just keep on doing what you're doing, man.
Well, as long as the Lord will let me, I'll do it.
Well, where you gonna go? You ain't gonna go anywhere yet. Ladies and gentlemen, the amazing Gary Puckett.
Thank you very much.
What a career.